What up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the No Look podcast here on Insane Games TV. It is the man, goddamn T Hayes, alongside my beautiful, gorgeous co-host
Oh, wow.
ACWeezy.
Getting all the compliments today. I mean, I'd say you're looking pretty damn handsome yourself. Got the hair on point, got the nice PSG jersey. Got it going, baby.
Yeah, I wish it was. I wish it was the newer kits, the Jordan ones, but they don't got Ibrahimovic anymore.
The Jordan ones are fire, but you can say you were on the PSG wave before, everyone kind of hopped the bandwagon.
Board, yeah,
because everyone, obviously I got one of the Jordan ones, and I'm not even like a PSG fan per se. I just think the jerseys are fire.
No, those ones are I just like the look of them. And they added a lot of cool colors, kind of like that old kind of 90s retro like colors, like the blues, the purples, the greens. I mean, they have it all. But that's neither here nor there. Today on today's episode, we got some breaking news that just landed in the NFL. We thought we were going to go unscathed with NFL news this week, but
It's always going to pop up for us, man.
little did I know, it just came trickling on through. Then we got UFC. We got NBA All-Star Weekend, I guess you could say it, although it was on Sunday.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin, and then we got a bracket this week. So let's get into it.
We got a good one, yeah. So we got breaking news. T brought to my attention. How breaking? Like within 20 minutes, right? Half hour.
I mean, this happened literally. I screenshotted this at 7:02. Probably came in on my phone at 6:55. It's about 10 minutes now. Call me Tyler Schefter. But Cowboys and Dak Prescott have a deal. Cowboys are giving Prescott a 4-year, $160 million deal, including a record $126 million guaranteed. Source tells ESPN the first 3 years average $42 million. Instant reaction, Austin. Everything I said last week on the podcast now shit because I said Russell Wilson was going to go to the Cowboys.
Right. No, I mean, you love to see it. It was tough to see Dak go down with that injury, especially being in a contract year. You weren't sure what was going to come of it, but to see they're rewarding him and all that he's done for that organization, I'm definitely happy just as a fan of football to see him get paid.
I think it just makes a lot of sense because you know what he is capable of now. He balled out before he had that gruesome injury, and he has chemistry with the guys around him rather than bringing in a guy like Russell Wilson who's now got to rebuild that chemistry. Yeah, he's a superstar, Super Bowl champion, a winner. But, I mean, I think they build upon Dak Prescott. They build upon their organization. The dude's only like 25, 26. He's not old by no means. He has a lot left in the tank. I think CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, what's his name?
Michael Gallup. Yep.
All those guys are super happy right now that Dak Prescott got re-signed.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's already got some good chemistry with all those guys, and they got a good young team. As Tyler get the Twisted Tea sip in there. No sponsored stream, no ads, but yeah, like I said, Cooper, he's getting up there. I'm not sure what his contract is, how that's going to be restructured, but they do have CeeDee Lamb. They have Michael Gallup. I think what's his name, the tight end as well. Jarwin, he was hurt for some of the season. Blake Jarwin.
Yeah,
he's a younger guy.
They had another guy that was decent throughout the year. I'm not too privy on the Cowboys, but yeah. I do know that Dak Prescott had great chemistry before he got injured with CeeDee Lamb, which was huge, especially in his rookie year. And anytime you could get Amari Cooper going, the guy is a top 15 receiver in the league for sure. If you can get him the ball and get it in right now. But I mean, that's giant for the Cowboys. If they stay healthy, I would say it's their division to lose.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. At the same time as I'm happy for Dak being paid, it's a safe play by the Cowboys, Tyler. Like you said, they know what they're getting out of him. He's taken them to the playoffs before. Whereas if you had Russell Wilson, it's kind of a risk-reward type situation. Yeah, he's got to, kind of rebuild the chemistry between all the skill players. But this guy, is a proven player who's gone to the Super Bowl before. So Cowboys made the safe play. They're sticking with Dak. Why do I keep saying Zach? Dak Prescott. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think a big question mark, Tyler, is with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. Definitely had an off year. And Tony Pollard, he kind of showed flashes.
He stepped up, man.
He kind of showed flashes saying, hey, I can be the guy. I'm not so convinced. What do you think? Do you think if they lose Zeke, are they still the same team or like with Pollard?
I mean, honestly, the way Tony Pollard played at the back half of the season, it was like, do we really even need to be paying this guy?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Ezekiel Elliott was kind of lackluster throughout the year. He didn't show, his quick spurts, his quick movements, why he was one of the best running backs in the league, where Tony Pollard was very elusive. He was running between tackles. He was breaking tackles. He almost kind of reminded me of like a third-party Alvin Kamara. The way he ran, he was very good, and he was great in the pass catching game too, which helped, Dak, and also helped Andy Dalton at the end of the year and whoever took over his spot, because after that they were already out of the playoffs. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest thing is now. Well, I want to ask one question about the Cowboys and then one thing about Russell Wilson to you. The Cowboys, their defense. Is there a huge question mark on their defense now, because their offense is basically bolstered? Like they got the best line in the league. One of them, some would say, at some days the best quarterback, a great wide receiver core, great running back core. I mean, why aren't they having that success that they should have?
I mean, obviously last year is probably without having Dak there in the backfield. Their defense wasn't terrible, honestly, Tyler. I think if you look at the numbers, they might have been, I don't think I'll go as far as saying top 10, but I want to say top 15 all year. They got Jalen Smith right at the linebacker position. I think they, still have some good guys in the secondary.
I think Leighton Vander Esch was injured most of the year, which was tough. But
yeah. I mean, he's like their guy, I mean, he's getting up there in age, but he's kind of someone that the team rallies behind. He's a more veteran locker room presence. So without that guy kind of commanding out there on the defense, I can see how things kind of went awry.
Yeah, I just don't understand how the Cowboys aren't absolutely dominating the NFC East. But I mean, that division will forever probably be trash. My next question was, that marks off one team on Russell Wilson's list. This is a two-part question. This is like an essay. One, do you think that the Cowboys kind of felt some heat because they saw that Russell Wilson was interested in the Cowboys, so they had to sign Dak Prescott? And two, does that mean that list is now shortened for Russell Wilson?
I don't really know that Cowboys felt pressure. I think this was probably something that had been going on. Maybe they wanted to nip it in the butt, I guess, if that's what you're saying from pressure standpoint, and say, hey, we're going to stick with Dak, and we're not even considering Russell. His list obviously grew shorter, but at the end of the day, I think I said it last week, I think he's going to end up staying in Seattle. I don't know. I think they have enough guys there that if they have a strong run, that division's tough, especially if the 49ers get back healthy, but I think he kind of knows what he has in that organization. He's got a good relationship with Pete Carroll. He's got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I think he just feels comfortable there. I don't know.
I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm going to predict it. Dak Prescott, healthy Dak Prescott's going to lead the Cowboys back to the playoffs and back to first place in the NFC East. I don't care if Jalen Hurts is running the Eagles operation next year, if Saquon Barkley's healthy, or whatever. I mean, Washington football team could possibly be up there, but they have a giant question mark at quarterback right now.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that front, but I don't know. I feel like they do have a lot of young players over there in Dallas, and I feel like they can definitely kind of gather around Dak, and like I said, we'll see what happens with Zeke. That'll be the biggest question mark.
Yeah, well, you want to get into some B-ball?
Let's touch on the UFC real quick, and then I feel like the basketball we might have a little bit more on. Did you watch the fight?
I watched the whole entire card.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, are we only talking about the main card or the whole entire card?
I mean, I think there's two main fights. There was three or four championship fights. Three. The first one, Amanda Nunes, man, I'll tell you what. I'll be sitting there on the couch, watching the fights with a couple claws in my system, and I'll be like, man, I feel like I could go out there and, fight in the women's division and hold my own, but I don't want any smoke with Amanda Nunes, bro. She came out there, just put a whooping on that other girl. I don't even know what her name was.
Megan Anderson.
Heavy favorite, and she showed why. I mean, you had to bet. She was like minus 900. You had to bet $1,000 to win. Pennies on the dollar, pretty much.
I mean, Amanda Nunes proved this fight that she is the most dominant fighter in UFC history. You could literally throw anybody at her at any weight class, and she's still going to find a way to either make you tap or knock you out. That's how good of a fighter she is. She's already gone through Ronda Rousey, Holly Holmes, Miesha Tate, now Megan Anderson, who had a 4-inch reach advantage and 4-inch height advantage on her. And I don't even think Megan Anderson landed a punch on her. It was just one-sided the whole entire fight. Most people are now saying, Amanda Nunes, who's she going to fight? She might have to fight some guys in lower weight divisions.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Well, that's the thing, too, because I think there's only like 7 or 8 women fighting in that weight class right now. So she's pretty much undisputed. I'm not sure what's going to come of it. She might have to go up, go down, because to my knowledge, they don't even have a ranking system right now in that weight class because there's just not enough people fighting in it.
They said that she's facing Holly Holmes next or something for the belt, and it's just like, why? She literally destroyed Holly Holm. I don't care if Holly Holm eats her Wheaties, says her prayers, takes a Flintstone gummy. There ain't no way you are going to land a single punch, let alone kick on Amanda Nunes. That's how good she is compared to every other girl in this division.
Well, you just got to give it to the next contender, even if it's someone who she's already beat down into the ground, into the mat.
But if I'm Dana White, I'm thinking this is not Holly Holm versus Amanda Nunes is not going to sell tickets. I can promise you that. It's already happened. People have already seen it. Amanda Nunes is coming off of a win that was almost like she didn't even break a sweat. Like if this was Diaz versus McGregor, like a close fight, they're like neck and neck. It was a split decision. Yeah, then you go for the second or the third fight, but Holly Holm Nunes too makes absolutely no sense.
I don't know. I think it just I mean, you're right. It's definitely not gonna be as sexy of a matchup. It's not gonna sell as much. But if you put it on a good, main card, main event, I think it'll be all right. And I just don't think there's any other better options at this point, Tyler. But
there's absolutely nobody that could beat Amanda Nunes. I think UFC has a problem. They even said it during the interview. Amanda Nunes created a problem for the UFC because they can't find anybody to fight her that would give her a good fight.
They might have to just do a fucking co-ed matchup, have her fight someone in the men's division.
I'm thinking Nunes versus someone in the bantamweight division or flyweight or whatever it is for the men's. That's like the lowest. Give her the best one in that class. It'll be a good fight.
That would be crazy though to see that. I mean, obviously, there's been a huge debate versus male versus female athletes and athleticism. But if she could go in there and that actually, was a thing, I'd be definitely interested to watch that. And I would put my money on her almost.
I agree 100%. If I'm Nunes, what do I have to lose? It's not like I've already lost matches in my career. If I beat the guy or if I land a punch or even come close to beating him, it only helps my reputation even more.
Yeah. So that was one of the championship fights. I think obviously the other main one, the main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Izzy Adesanya. Tyler, coming into this, Adesanya was undefeated. He was 20-0 in his pro career. A lot of people wanted to see him versus John Jones potentially. Everyone's talking about a John Jones comeback. Well, that's simply not going to happen anymore because Blachowicz came in, he did his thing, he defended his title, and he just looked clean. My one takeaway is you could just visibly see the weight difference in these guys, Tyler. Obviously, Blachowicz, he came in, he made weight, but, I mean, what is there, 2 days in between making weight and the fight? So that dude must have just been eating like crazy because he looked like he had 20 pounds on Adesanya, who made no effort to put on any weight. He said he wanted to stay quick, stay agile. That's kind of his game. I mean, I haven't watched too many of their fights, but I know Adesanya does not get taken to the ground that often. Blachowicz took him down twice in crucial moments, and at the end of it, it was a unanimous decision.
No, I mean, you said it perfectly. The weight had a big factor in the Adesanya fight for sure. Adesanya, the only way he was going to beat Blachowicz was if he knocked him out within the first 2 rounds, I think. And that was purely based on, if he could knock him out. You're talking about a heavyweight fighter. It's hard to knock out those guys. They're big dudes. That guy's got the nose on him the size of Iraq. I mean, it's fucking ginormous. But Blachowicz came out and he was smart. He knew that Adesanya was being fatigued from, throwing kicks, throwing punches. Adesanya definitely won the first 2 rounds, and then Blachowicz took over the last 3. He just kind of actually found out, hey, maybe if I lay on this guy and put all my weight on him and try and make him move around and get him tired from a big pole lock being on top of him, hey, I might win this fight. He had a lot of great target punches and a lot of great strikes throughout those 3 rounds, and it just proved that, Adesanya, maybe next time put on some weight, maybe next time, play a little smarter. I mean, that was a tough fight for him, especially at that weight class, because if you not to keep harping on McGregor, but if you go back to McGregor Diaz when he went up, he put on the weight. He was slower, but he could throw
take some more
punches.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, Adesanya said, my technique was off and I probably shouldn't have let him get on me, that quick. But I was disappointed with how it turned out. I wanted Adesanya to at least, or someone get knocked out or submitted, but
yeah. No, I mean, I think it was pretty close. It might have been 1-1 after the first 2 rounds. The third round could have gone either way, but obviously Blachowicz, clearly won the last 2 when he had 2 takedowns in the consecutive rounds. Really no question, which led to that, unanimous judge's decision.
I think my favorite part about that was when Blachowicz was walking out, they said that the guy was 2-3 when he first started out in professional wrestling or UFC.
Yeah.
And he was on the brink of losing his, career, essentially. Now he's a champion and probably just won his biggest fight and proved that he deserves to be champion in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens.
Or light heavyweight. I keep saying heavyweight, it's light heavyweight.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with John Jones. They're saying he might go up to heavyweight. So, I mean, everyone's just... No matter how long he goes away from the sport, Tyler, John Jones is kind of, one of the, if not the face, one of the faces of the UFC. Obviously, with McGregor still there, he's always going to be a top guy. But I think it'll be good for the sport, and especially from Dana White's perspective of selling pay-per-views. But,
yeah, it's always like, who's going to beat this guy? You bring up a guy who is untouchable in the division below him. He gets beat. I mean, who's next? Who's going to step up and, challenge this guy? Because right now he's looking unstoppable.
Yeah. So that was, a little bit UFC. Good card, I think, overall. Definitely got your money's worth. Most of the fights went throughout most of the rounds. Well, I guess the one fight we should talk about as well, Tyler. I didn't even think about it. Before the Nunes fight, I believe, I can't think of their names, but the guy won the belt by disqualification, right? Which
Peter Yan versus it's like L something. Dude's from Jamaica.
Yeah, let me look it up.
I want to say Kingston, but I think that would just be, Kingston, Jamaica.
I got this pulled up.
Just look up Peter Yan.
Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling.
Aljamain Sterling.
So it went four rounds until there was an illegal knee kick from Peter Yan, which, Tyler, I wasn't privy to the rule about this, if you already kind of established on the ground, which he clearly wasn't even close. Had one knee, one hand on the ground. Jan came in with a flying knee right to his face, and a lot of people are like, oh, he might have been selling it. He knew if he sold it and the fight got stopped, he'd win by disqualification. But I don't know. If you take a knee, like,
if you look at the
unguarded,
replay, you can tell it was a full-fledged knee.
That rocked his world. That rocked his world. I mean, Aljamain, you could tell he was crying. He didn't want to win that way. I don't know. I mean, it's got to be weird.
I agree with Sterling when he was saying that was bullshit because, you got to know as a fighter that I'm going to bring my hand behind this dude's head and take a knee straight up to his temple,
Yeah.
that can't be legal. And Joe Rogan was saying at the end of the fight, oh well, they're saying now that there was bad advice in the corner of Peter Yan that
Yeah, his team said go ahead and knee him.
Yeah, essentially. And maybe he misunderstood that. Maybe they said that, not knee him in the head, but like kick him while he's down, essentially. But instead, he took just boom right there, right into the. I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, this dude. I'm surprised he's not knocked out, dead, unconscious, because I know I would be.
Yeah, no, I would have been on that mat probably for the rest of my life if I took that knee right there. But yeah, it was one we definitely had to talk about a little bit.
But,
yeah.
I mean, there's probably going to be a rematch, and honestly, this rivalry is probably going to be one of the hottest ones in the UFC, especially after the way that this one ended. They already had some bad heat together.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's something to look forward to, especially with winning the belt that way.
Yeah, 100%. Now I think we can shift gears over the NBA. Do you want to start with the big news coming out of Brooklyn?
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
I mean, are you gonna do it?
I mean, it's your team, it's your guys. I figured you want to kind of get into it a little bit, but
well, I mean, Brooklyn Nets, Blake Griffin agreed to a deal. Probably the biggest news over the weekend. Blake Griffin bought out his contract with the Detroit Pistons to become an unrestricted free agent. I mean, there was numerous teams that he was saying he was linked to. I thought he was going to go back to the Clippers, reunite with the Los Angeles Clippers organization, play with Kawhi, play with Paul George, but shocked the whole entire NBA, going to the Nets. And honestly, Austin, I don't know one team that can beat this Brooklyn Nets team right now. I don't think there is one. Not even the Monstars.
Yeah, I mean, they might give them a good run, but I mean, like you said, right now it's kind of their championship to lose. If all those guys stay healthy, I mean, you have 4 multiple all-star starters. I'm assuming I'd think Blake Griffin would start. I'm not sure what they're saying or if they've said anything yet.
He's gonna start for sure.
Yeah, I'm assuming he would start. He's definitely not the Blake Griffin of past, Lob City, which, he reunites obviously with DeAndre Jordan, Lob City guys. But I mean, that starting lineup, Tyler, I don't think other than maybe the Miami Heat team, or I think they're
maybe
better
than
I was going to say I think they're better than the Golden State trio, because I mean, you got a guy, so KD was on both teams. You got Kyrie, who kind of scratches out Steph, and then I would give the leg up to Harden. Then you add in Blake Griffin. I mean, that's just crazy right there. They should walk away with the East 100%. And as much as I don't want to see the Lakers, I like to see new faces, new teams up there. That's going to be a phenomenal NBA Finals if it happens that way. Nets versus Lakers.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, Blake Griffin was putting up 2010 stat line in Detroit. Granted, it's Detroit. He's probably one of the only players playing that night. But, I mean, you get him in a lineup with, you got Kyrie at point guard, or actually, James Harden at point guard, Kyrie at shooting guard, KD now at small forward, Blake Griffin at power forward, DeAndre Jordan at center. What this does is now it makes not only spread the floor, because Blake Griffin, people forget, can also shoot the 3. It also adds rebounding, which we were purely lacking on because we were always playing small. Adds a little bit of defense. Our bench increases because we didn't have to give up anybody for Blake Griffin. Now we got Joe Harris coming off the bench. Bruce Brown, who's playing out of his mind. Hey, we might get Spencer Dinwiddie back at the end of the year after that ACL tear. Our team is honestly could go down as one of the best basketball teams in NBA history, just based off of this whole entire lineup as a whole.
I could see them putting up 200 points in a game, Tyler, honestly. I mean, crazy to say. But another thing that I'm thinking
All
of...
gas, no brakes.
Exactly. Another thing that kind of came to mind as I'm talking about these guys, Kyrie, KD, kind of injury prone, you could literally have those guys just take the night off now.
Right.
Like you could, okay, Kyrie, we're going to give you a night off, or maybe don't come on this road trip with us. KD, you can switch off because at any given point you can have a three-headed monster in your lineup that can go out there and should be able to handily beat most teams they're facing.
I mean, the East is kind of a walk in the park compared to the West, I would say. I mean, the Nets, and we're going to see it on Thursday. They face, I forget who they face, but they play again on Thursday. I think they have the Celtics on the following game. So we're definitely going to see it, the next two games, what they're capable of. Obviously, KD's not back, but, I mean, do you even really need them? James Harden and Kyrie are playing out of their minds. Blake Griffin, is going to join in, and I'm sure they're going to feed him the rock as much as possible to get him comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the West is definitely better right now. I think the Utah Jazz, if I'm not mistaken, are in first place. They put three guys into the All-Star game with the injuries, what have you. Mike Conley ended up getting that last slot, so they had Conley, Gobert, and Donovan Mitchell. Different setup this year, Tyler, kind of with COVID. I'm assuming they wanted to do it all in one night, limit the exposure and the travel between the guys. Started off with the skills competition, which historically, and the trend stays true, the big men have run that. I mean, I was going into it thinking there's no way Luka loses. He kind of went in there a little lethargic, I guess, if you will. He's wearing his warm-ups. Like, he's like, oh, this is a practice for me. But, Domantas Sabonis, right?
Yep.
Ended up coming away with the win, who faced off against Vucevic in the finals, two big men. I always thought that was kind of an interesting competition. But like I said, the big men kind of own that.
I'm not surprised, though. I mean, these guys are Europeans, both of them. Big men typically in Europe or overseas usually have skills. Like, it's not like big men that come from America or, name any other nation. I feel like because they play in the pros starting at such a young age from 14 and up, they learn these.
They're playing guards almost as they're younger on the team.
Because they're small, and then they grow up to be 6'10" or 7 foot. Look at Anthony Davis. He's a prime example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Domantas Sabonis is, a sneaky all-star in the NBA, and I'm just surprised it was two centers or two big guys going up against each other in the finals. I didn't watch much of it, but when I saw Sabonis won, I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, the pass kind of is what fucks everybody up. You got to get that. If you don't hit that on the first try, that's kind of what takes a lot of time. Yeah. I mean, you got Chris Paul out here missing layups. It should have been small guy guard oriented competition, dribbling, passing, shooting. But again, a big man won. On the point of shooting, after that, we had the 3-point competition. My favorite competition of the All-Star weekend or day, as they had it this year. It's just fun, Tyler, to see these guys. They're on another level. I mean, you see Steph out there. He got 31 points in the first round. I don't know if he said it. I remember Ray Allen was like hinting towards it. But he's like, oh, he pulled a Larry Bird. He said, all right, which one of you guys is competing for second place? Of course, he goes out there and wins on the last shot, though, mind you. Came up in the clutch. I mean, did you think anyone else was going to give him a run for his money, or was just kind of, you knew what was going to happen?
I mean, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed that Joe Harris from the Nets wasn't in it, and I was also disappointed that Seth Curry wasn't in it. I think Seth Curry has one of the highest percentages in three-pointers. I thought that would have been interesting to see a Seth versus Steph finals, and I could have definitely seen that. But no, it was Steph's game to lose. I mean, the guy is just unreal. If you watch the All-Star game, he was hitting threes from fucking everywhere. He could have sat in the bleachers and probably made a three if he wanted to. But 3-point contest, I thought it was decent. I wish they got better competitors in there. I don't think Zach LaVine is a 3-point shooter. I think of him as a dunker. I don't think of Jaylen Brown as a 3-point shooter. I think of him as a great defender. So maybe in the future, I hope that they get, the guys that are actually the best of the best in 3-point. I'm glad that they had Steph. Isn't this like Steph's like third or fourth time in it? Or it
I don't know.
Seem like he should be in it as much as he should be,
Yeah, it's his second time winning it. He won it back in 2015. I think the only person that might have given him giving him a run for his money. Devin Booker, who obviously wasn't participating in the All-Star events because of an injury. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. Not only is Seth have the best percentage, but also you get any kind of sibling rivalry out there. I thought that could have been good ratings. But yeah, I mean,
would have been fun. You get Del Curry out there, maybe even have him suit up for one event, have a Curry off.
Yeah, well, like you said though, a lot of the other competitors, Steph was really the only pure shooter in there. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Zach LaVine. A lot of those guys are like off the ball shooters. I'd say Mike Conley was maybe the only other guy that's really a catch and shoot type guy who I think he made it to the second round, right? He would have won if Steph didn't hit that last shot.
Yeah.
So 3-point contest, dunk contest, Tyler, which is not even an event anymore. I don't understand what's going on. They got really no-name guys. They got Obi Toppin, who was a rookie this year. Afrene Simons, who ended up winning it.
And the guy who got completely shafted, Cassius Stanley, let's us not forget, with the best dunk of the whole entire night, and they gave him a 44.
Was that with the 12-foot, with the ball sitting up there?
No, that was Afrene Simons. Cassius Stanley threw the ball, caught it between the leg, dunk with the left hand. Like, it was an incredible dunk.
That was Toppin, I thought.
No. Toppin dunked it.
He had one where in the final round.
Between the legs, from just past the free throw line. But Cassius threw the ball in the air, caught it between the leg. I think it was this way. So he went right hand to left and then dunked it with his left. It was unreal. And it should have been a 50 or even close to a 50, but they gave him a 44, and it was one of the best dunks of the night. Yeah.
So my two takeaways from this. One, I think Obi Toppin got screwed. I think he should have won. He had more creativity just throughout the whole event. I think he got like a 49 or a 50 on one of his dunks. Then he brought out, what's his name? Julius Randle, and his dad dunked over them, which I thought was pretty cool. With that being said, Tyler, if you're not going to get the big name guys in this competition, and at the same time, they're kind of running out of dunks to do. We've almost seen every dunk before. I feel like they should almost move the format to some sort of like horse almost competition, if you will, where instead of coming up with your own dunks, you have like an allotted time period, or say this round you have to do this dunk. Right? So like first round is alley-oop between the legs. If you don't complete that, you're out. Right? Get like 6 guys in it and just keep moving on. Next one's going to be off the side of the backboard, reverse. Like, just have a dunk to show these guys, okay, who's the best at doing these dunks, because really there's not as much creativity. I thought the one was cool where the guy had the little mini basket up there and he grabbed the ball 12 feet or whatever. But if they're going to be so similar, just play it's like a knockout almost, right? If you follow what I'm saying. I feel like that would be kind of cool.
I think it's a great idea what you just had. I think it would, kind of bring an intensity of competition to it. But to your point of Obi Toppin being the most creative, I actually disagree. I think Afrene Simons was by far the most creative with the mini hoop and then kissing the rim. I mean, Obi Toppin's one dunk, Zach LaVine did in warm-ups the week before. I mean, so he tried
that's what I'm saying.
He tried doing the Michael Jordan between the legs, but it was actually like a foot inside the free throw line. So I think Afrene Simons deserved the win. I thought Cassius Stanley, though, was absolutely screwed out of it and could have possibly won over Afrene Simons and Obi Toppin, because that dude's got bunnies, but didn't even make it out of the first round because of the judges.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough for me to see these guys go out there and, they have street ball slam dunk competitions that guys are throwing way better dunks than them. Don't put the pressure on them to come up with something crazy, because a lot of shit has already been done.
What about this, Austin? Now that you say that, why not have pros versus, street ballers?
Oh, it wouldn't be close.
It would be fucking unreal. What you would do is you just have like a bracket almost, maybe like 6, maybe 8 guys, and then actually have a dunk contest like they used to back in the day, and have the street ballers versus the pros and just go down in order and see who comes out on top.
I think the Street Ballers would run away with that, but I do like your idea of a bracket format because we love brackets. And Tyler, I think we're moving on to the bracket unless we didn't really talk about the All-Star game.
It was a blowout.
I watched a little bit of it. Dame Lillard hit a deep three to win it. They had their same format with hitting the points as opposed to time.
What I will say is I do like that points format that they have though.
Yeah, it's good. I mean,
I really do enjoy that, and I think it puts a cap on you just getting out of hand and like scoring 200 points. I do like that points, where you have to hit to win the game.
Yeah, I like that as well. But like you said, it was a blowout. I mean, it was over before it started. Obviously, Team Durant, their team leader, right, picking the teams. He wasn't even participating. So you guys lost your best player. And then, they should have had someone else pick teams, maybe Giannis. Then they would have, he would have actually been playing. Giannis had a great game. I'm not sure if he finished.
Dude didn't even miss a field goal.
Did he finish? Last I saw, he was 17 for 17.
I think he went 18 for 18, which was an all-star record. Finished with like 35, 37 points, something like that. I mean, definitely deserved to win the MVP, which it was cool that they named it the Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP. Yep. I thought that was interesting. Also, I got a bone to pick with LeBron. How are you going to be called Team LeBron and only play 4 minutes in the All-Star game? Yeah. Like, I understand that you're trying to save up throughout the whole entire NBA regular season, but Michael Jordan never played 4 minutes in the All-Star game. Hell, Kobe never even played 4 minutes. Get your numbers up, guy.
Yeah. At this point, like you said, he's not really too worried about that. But now I think we're going to move on to our bracket, Tyler, which I think will be a pretty good one. I'm going to share the screen with you. You got that?
Yep.
Put it on the screen for everyone else to see. So we have our best sports rivalries bracket. It's not going to be just teams. If you guys at home can see the bracket, we have some individual, like Raphael, Nadal versus Roger Federer. We got Arnold Palmer versus Jack Nicklaus. But I felt as though they still fell in the category of sports rivalries. So without further ado, I say we get along with this, start the tournament. And the number one overall seed, Tyler, which for me, when it first comes to mind of a sports rivalry, I got the New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox. Put them up against, not on purpose, but it worked out this way. Another baseball rivalry of California, the LA Dodgers versus San Francisco Giants. I mean, Tyler, you and I, especially being from New York, being Yankees fans, having our friends and families being Yankees fans, all we heard and all we knew was Yankees versus Red Sox. I mean, this was heated. You got, back in the day with Jeter, Manny Ramirez, they're out there getting in brawls on the field. I mean, this has got to be one of the, most heated and historic rivalries in sports.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of rivalries, you think of the Yankees versus Red Sox. There's no doubt about that. Veritek fighting, I think it was A-Rod. I mean, it's just the most heated. And I think the best part about it is, especially with rivalries, I feel like they usually happen in eras. Where the Yankees-Red Sox, this is a limitless rivalry. Like, this will never not be a rivalry because these two teams are typically usually always on top of the AL East, trying to win the division, trying to win the East, trying to go to the World Series. So many great games against each other. I mean, honestly, it's going to be tough for me to go against this one, but for me, it's a simple one. New York versus Boston.
Yeah, it's got to be the easiest kind of result matchup we've had going on. So now we got the 9 versus 8 matchup. We got Michael Jordan versus the Detroit Pistons and Michigan versus Ohio State football. Pretty even here, I'd say. Obviously, it's kind of a weird one having an individual player versus a team. But pretty much, Tyler, back in the day, in the 90s, the Pistons were the only team that gave Michael Jordan, any kind of competition for, his quest to the NBA championship. And on the flip side of that, Michigan versus Ohio State, this is another one of those rivalries that has been going on, for how long. These guys, no matter if they're good, no matter if they're bad, both teams are going to come into this matchup and give it all they have.
If there's anything I hate more in sports, it's Michigan, the University of Michigan, and Ohio State University. I have yet to see a good football game between these two in my time on living on Earth. So I'm going to easily have to go with Michael Jordan versus the Pistons. Probably one of the best rivalries I saw documented, because I wasn't alive during it, but just the passion between the two teams, Michael Jordan's will to win, against Isaiah Thomas, against even his soon-to-be teammate Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer. It was just courageous. The dude almost got knocked out multiple times by you name whatever player on the Pistons. I just thought it was more ferocious, and I may give this one to Michigan versus Ohio State if it was ever good within the last 10 years, but it hasn't.
Right. It's kind of tough for us to make an opinion just not having seen it in our lifetime. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that. MJ versus the Pistons. Next matchup. I
just hate Ohio State.
Tyler doesn't want to see them win in any capacity, anything. So he's voting against them no matter what. Next matchup, Lakers versus Celtics and Rangers versus Islanders. Obviously, Lakers versus...
You're gonna have to drop some knowledge on the Rangers versus Islanders. You're gonna have to sell this one to me because I know you know a lot about the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I know more than you. I'm a Rangers fan by trade. My dad, huge Rangers fan, hockey fan all his life. I just know this one goes back in the early 1900s. And Tyler, I've been to a few Rangers games at MSG. I forget who it was against on the Rangers, but there was a guy named Dennis Potvin that played for the Islanders who, I believe the story goes, intentionally broke a Rangers player's leg. And, this was back when it was, no holds bars, like, the 90s NBA. Like you said, they're out there knocking out Michael Jordan. These guys just went at it. So this guy, I'm pretty sure, intentionally broke someone's leg, but still to this day, I don't know if it's in between periods or what, there's a chant at MSG when these guys are playing, and someone in the crowd, I'm not sure if it's the same guy or someone has the Potvin duties that game, blows a whistle, and then you just hear the whole stadium go, "Potvin sucks." So these guys, you say people don't forget. The Rangers fans definitely don't forget about what happened, and there's definitely still a strong rivalry in the NHL. But on the other hand, Lakers versus Celtics, Tyler, again, we weren't really alive or of age to kind of see what happened, but we've all seen the stories. Magic versus Bird, these guys were just two titans going back and forth in the NBA. It's going to be hard for me to go against them.
I mean, you're also forgetting Kobe versus the Big Three, the original Big Three.
Which is crazy that it lasted decades, you know what I mean?
I think this just goes to show the type of franchises that were going up against each other. Just two franchises that were always just that good that they're now competing for who has the most banners in their arena. This is like you take the two best teams in the NFL or you take the two best teams in the NBA like these two. They're hanging banners every year.
Yeah.
Especially back in the day. Now it's kind of going back and forth and, some random team will win it. But, I mean, these guys, you look at any of the stats, anybody that's a leader among stats either played for the Lakers or played for the Celtics.
Yeah, and even, too, today's NBA, a lot of people thought it would have been a Lakers-Celtics finals last year. Obviously, it didn't shape out that way, but... to have it still going on in this day and age is, one of those everlasting rivalries. So we're in agreement on this one.
I just think it's funny, though, that the NHL has fans that are that, like, you just grow into that. Like, you don't know anything about Potvin until your great-uncle Lenny tells you a story about him. And then you learn all about why you hate the Islanders, and your family does too. It's
just such an old-school, traditional sport. I mean, they haven't made really any changes in the format of it and
it's like
the teams. Yeah, oh yeah. That's like, you could live down the street from someone, but if you're, an Arsenal fan or Real Madrid, you guys hate each other. You don't even know the person, but you see the flag and it's like, oh, fuck those guys.
Right.
But we do have a soccer matchup coming up. This next matchup, Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Crazy of most recent years boxing matchup. These guys, they had a trilogy, right? They fought at least 3 times, I believe.
I think so. I'm not too sure.
So you call it a rivalry, but Floyd has been undefeated, obviously, in his whole career. So Pacquiao really never made it a true rivalry and gave him any kind of competition. On the other side of it, Alabama versus Auburn. I mean, this has got to be the premier college football rivalry in my mind. The SEC, always the powerhouse of college football. These are usually the top two teams. I mean, in recent years, we got the not Chris Jenkins, Chris Harris maybe. Anyways, the field goal return for the touchdown in the Iron Bowl. I mean, they have a bowl for their matchup, Tyler. So if I had to sway one way, I'd kind of go leaning towards the Alabama versus Auburn.
No, I mean Floyd versus Manny, definitely a great rivalry. It's just like you said, very one-sided. If it were anything but that, then I would definitely consider that one of the best. But Bama versus Auburn, when you ask someone if they're from Alabama, you usually ask, do you like Auburn or do you like Alabama? And that kind of tells you the type of person they are. Bama, you see a lot of people that are Roll Tide. They're kind of front runners nowadays, and Auburn are the people that are the grinders, like they're true football through and through. But I mean, you do get those off years with them, but I feel like it's more consistently like some of the best college football games that you witness throughout the year.
Yeah, kind of going back to, like I said, about Michigan, Ohio State. I feel like even more so, these guys are, no matter if they're good or bad, they're going to give it their all. We got the Chief _IGTV in the chat, which I believe I have an idea who this might be, going under a different alias. Says, Jeff Gordon versus Dale Earnhardt.
My God.
One of the greatest, and Tyler knows it. I'm pretty sure this is Dan. Dan, I don't know how many different Twitch accounts you got, but
it's like he needs a different Twitch account so he could. But then he says something stupid like Jeff Gordon versus Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, you're not gonna hide your identity if you're throwing out Danny NASCAR facts. Yeah. That probably would have been a good one. That didn't really come to mind for me. Not a huge NASCAR guy, but that definitely could have been on the list.
Shit out of Jeff Gordon. It was just that easy.
Yeah.
The dude was just a fucking G.
Yeah. So we're agreeing here on Bama versus Auburn. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Next matchup, Tyler, one that kind of hits close to home. Packers versus Bears, and then we got Arnold Palmer versus Jack Nicklaus. I'll start on the flip side. I'll say Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus. I don't think there'll ever be a better golf rivalry, just the way these guys are going back and forth. Nicklaus kind of did a little bit better in his time. Obviously, he's got the most major wins of all time. But, I mean, at the same time, Arnold Palmer, I mean, this guy is a staple in the golf community. He's got drinks named after him. So I don't think we'll ever see another matchup rivalry like them in the sport of golf. But with that being said, Tyler, Packers versus Bears, I could talk all day about it. I'm simply going to say this has to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, rivalries in sports. And to have them still be in the same division, face each other twice a year, and the fans know it, Tyler. Like you're saying, kind of how the Rangers and the soccer families, they're grown up saying, "Oh, we hate this team because of such and such happened 20 plus years ago." I mean, if you're born in Green Bay or a Packers fan, vice versa, if you're born a Bears fan, you just automatically are brought up to hate the other team.
No, I agree. I think Palmer versus Nicklaus would have been a better one if it had lasted as long as the Packers versus Bears rivalry has.
Yeah.
I mean, in recent years, it's obviously been the Packers, but I mean, the Bears go back and forth. I feel like it happens like every 10 to 15 years. The Bears are good and then the Packers are good. But it's a staple in the NFL. This is probably one of the best rivalries in the NFL has to offer, although it may not be, as good as it used to be. When you talk Packers, you talk Bears and vice versa.
Yeah. No, 100%. So we got the Packers, Bears moving on. Dan says, got rid of the full name account, and wow, Tyler, Jeff is far better.
Oh, my God.
I feel like we have a little
You're lucky that Dale Earnhardt's life got cut short, or else it would have been vice versa, my
Oh.
friend. Dale Earnhardt wouldn't have let Jeff Gordon even win a lap on him.
Is Dan a big Jeff Gordon fan? Oh yeah, he's got that poster like sign or something, right?
If Jeff Gordon walked across Dan's face, Dan's jaw would be dislocated from his mouth.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. Next matchup, Raphael Nadal versus Roger Federer, and then we got Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Tyler, again, kind of same goes with Palmer versus Nicklaus. Rafa versus Federer, maybe one of the best tennis matchups of all time. May not see one better, but kind of the same theme here. We're talking about the history of these teams, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. I mean, these guys want blood against each other every time they face. El Clasico. I mean, again, going back to the Iron Bowl of Bama versus Auburn, these guys have a name for their matchup, and for me, it's just kind of unanimous.
No, this is an easy one for me. I definitely got to go with Barcelona versus Real Madrid. I mean, it would be the other way around if Rafa wasn't so good on clay and Federer wasn't so good on, I believe, grass, or whatever court he's really good on. But I mean, I feel like because it's not played on such an even playing ground tennis wise, it's kind of tough because Rafa always wins on clay.
Right.
Federer always wins on everything else. But they did go back and forth with majors and whatnot. But Barcelona versus Real Madrid, this is probably the best rivalry in soccer, and to say that is, probably the biggest privilege in sports.
Yeah, 100%. And to say that, like you said, I mean, soccer, international, football, if they say, has got to be the biggest sport. I mean, you got every country watching this, whereas every other major sport is kind of secluded to your individual country. This is worldwide. I mean, they got the Olympics, the FIFA going on. So these guys are right up there. Next matchup, we got Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali, and then a late addition to the bracket, Tyler suggested Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. What do you think, Tyler? I'll let you kick this one off because
this is an easy one for me. I know nothing about Ali versus Frazier besides down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. But Stone Cold versus The Rock, they headlined 3 WrestleManias together. I don't think there's going to ever be a pro wrestling rivalry such as the one as The Rock versus Stone Cold, not in terms of matches, but their promos, the staple name of who they are. Name 2 other wrestlers that, is more popular in the world today outside of wrestling than The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. It goes hand in hand. It's synonymous. Everybody knows who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. Everybody knows who The Rock is, even if you didn't watch wrestling. I just thought the rivalry was the best in sports entertainment history, and I would easily have to go with that over Joe Frazier versus Ali.
Well, here we go again with Tyler, just kind of picking favorites, not even paying homage to any kind of sports history, even though he wasn't alive to see it. I mean, for me, I was a huge WWE fan back in the day, kind of at the peak of this rivalry between Stone Cold and The Rock. But with that being said, I mean, Tyler, like you said, if you even know down goes Frazier and, the whole float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, I mean, there's probably a good 60% of people that have the picture of Muhammad Ali holding up his fist in the ring. I mean, this has got to be easily the biggest boxing rivalry of all time. And in some respects, boxing is one of the biggest sports in the world. So for me, I feel like just the history behind it, and also the sport.
It's one of the biggest sports in the world. I mean, I would say easily soccer is the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah, I would say soccer is number 1, but just like how international it is, you got guys fighting, between different countries, on the same, league, if you will, right? You got boxers fighting from USA, fighting Russia, Brazil, all these guys. Whereas like, the NFL, NBA, all those guys are secluded to the USA. This is kind of like soccer, not as big as soccer, but international. And I don't know, for me, Muhammad Ali, probably the best boxer of all time. it's kind of fucked up on your part just to go against them for
How is it
a
fucked
couple
up
of
on my
wrestlers.
part?
Because you're not going with history
Just
and
because.
facts. You're just going with the guys that you like because you don't know anything about it.
Oh, so just because you saw a bunch of posts saying that this was the #1 rivalry of all time, and me have an opinion on what is the actual best rivalry in this situation means I'm the bad guy and I'm fucked up. I got it.
Well, I mean, not only did I see that, just gathering data and information while making this bracket, but at the same time, I knew beforehand that this was going to be one of my top picks.
Okay, well, I guess it's our first coin flip in 2 weeks.
It's messed up that Tyler, we gotta go to a coin flip for this.
Why is it messed up that I have an opinion?
Because your opinion is wrong. And so for this one, we'll go heads, Ali Frazier, tails, Stone Cold The Rock. And it is tails. Tyler got his way, and that is quite fucking disgusting if you ask me. But it probably doesn't matter because I don't think they're gonna move on. Oh, shit. Sorry. I didn't do that on purpose. Damn, I can't believe you, but I'm not surprised. Moving on, Tyler. Serena Williams versus Maria Sharapova, another tennis matchup I just had to throw in there. I feel like in their primes, this was one of the better marquee matchups in the sport of tennis. Kind of the same type deal like you were talking about Rafa versus Federer. I mean, Serena Williams is overall better. There's, no way around that. But it's kind of Sharapova gave her a run for her money, so that you kind of called them rivals. And then on the other side, Duke versus UNC, the best college basketball matchup of all time, no question. For me, this is a no-brainer.
I mean, the only thing that I'll say about Sharapova versus Serena is, ugh, because that's all you would ever hear out of Sharapova's mouth. But just like the Yankees versus Boston, Duke versus UNC is synonymous when it comes to rivalries. There's nothing more that people hate from Duke than UNC and vice versa. There's been blood literally on the basketball court because of it. I just think it's a no-brainer, Duke versus UNC.
Yep. Glad we can agree on that one. And as we traditionally do, we're going to work our way up from the bottom. So right back at it, Duke versus UNC, Stone Cold versus The Rock. Tyler, my decision is hands down for Duke UNC. What do you think? Is there any contest, or are you just so in love and infatuated with Stone Cold and The Rock that you got to pick them?
I think there's absolutely no contest here, Austin. Duke versus UNC definitely takes the cake. Probably one of the best rivalries in history. And I didn't say it in the last round, but I mean, there's just so many great pro basketball players that came from these schools. Michael Jordan, Vince Carter, JJ Redick. Now you got Zion Williamson, Kyrie. I mean, you have all these guys that are great alumni out of these schools. So it's not like you're seeing guys that are in college who are just one and dones. You see these guys go to the next step and exceed. So I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And plus, you got Roy Williams versus Coach K, or Coach K versus
Dean
Smith.
Yeah. No, like we were saying, it kind of goes back a long time, which as well, both of these matchups do. Tyler, this is a tough one for me. Packers, Bears versus Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Obviously, I've followed the Packers-Bears rivalry a little bit closer. But I don't know. Just for me, Tyler, I try to be fair. Obviously, we know how you stand on this front. But I feel like I almost have to lean towards Barcelona versus Real Madrid just because of how big the soccer football world is throughout all the countries and whatnot. And this has got to be the biggest matchup out of them. Whereas the NFL, again, going back, sound like a broken record, only played in the United States. I mean, Ronaldo versus Messi, there's just too much going there. I think I got to swing over to the Barcelona versus Real Madrid.
No, and I was hoping that you would go that way because I agree 100%. I think you also see these teams in Champions League finals. You see these teams, fighting for Champions League spots. And it's just every single year it's almost Barcelona versus Real Madrid for first place in the Series A, I guess you could say. But I just think no matter what, it'll always be a good matchup between these two, where Packers versus Bears, typically as of late, it's always been the Packers. So
Yeah.
it's kind of tough for me to say it's a rivalry when I know that Barcelona versus Real Madrid is always going to be a great rivalry game.
Yeah, the way I look at it, if you ask people to take a poll on which rivalry they would vote on, I think the Real Madrid versus Barcelona would completely crush it, because there's way more fans of that sport and they understand that rivalry over an NFL matchup. So, Packers, I'm sorry, but I got to do what's right here and go with Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Next one's a pretty good matchup here, Tyler. The 5 versus 4. Let's see, we've only had, okay, so I guess I wouldn't really call the 8-9 a matchup underdog, but we only had really one underdog victory, the Stone Cold, which was on a coin flip. So we have all these high seeds coming in. 5 versus 4. Lakers, Celtics versus Bama, Auburn.
This really isn't a contest for me.
But yeah, I'll let you go off.
The only real reason I say that is because of the longevity of the rivalry versus how many years it's been good. And that's the Lakers versus Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
There's been many years where, or there hasn't been many years where the Lakers or the Celtics were bad. You know, it's not even fathomable in the NBA at this point. It's always the Lakers are good, or it's always the Celtics are good. And when they're both good and they're facing each other, it's even better because of all the history. Magic versus Bird, Russell versus Chamberlain. The list goes on and on and on. Where Bama versus Auburn, it's kind of tough because Bama always has a good team, but Auburn sometimes doesn't recruit well. So it's not always a level playing field.
I agree with you. The only thing I can say is, the fact that Lakers versus Celtics is a rivalry in its own, and it has stayed, kind of super competitive this long, is quite outstanding. Alabama versus Auburn, those guys in the same division, close geographical, they're kind of set up to be rivals. I mean, you got two teams, Lakers, Celtics, on the opposite side of the map, different conferences, and these guys are rivals. That's just, something to be said about that. So I'll agree with you on that one. Lakers, Celtics. Next matchup, number 1 seed, Yankees versus Red Sox versus MJ and the Pistons. Tyler, I'll let you kick this one off if you want. I feel like I've been starting them.
This one, again, easy one for me. New York versus Boston takes the cake on this one. And I really only feel like that it wasn't a contest because MJ versus the Pistons was only in the late 80s, early 90s, so it had a short life cycle. Now, granted, was it some of the best basketball in history? Some people would say yes, just purely based off the fiery compassion and competition between the two. But the Yankees versus Red Sox, it's just synonymous with one another. They hate each other. There's bad blood. They're willing to do whatever it takes to win. It's just like, hey, you want to go see a Yankees game? Austin, who's the first team that you want to see the Yankees face?
Yeah, Red Sox, 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, no real need for me to elaborate on this one. It's going to be clear-cut Yankees, Red Sox, moving on. This one, however, a little bit closer matchup, Yankees, Red Sox versus Lakers, Celtics. For me, as much as I was talking up how kind of astonishing it is that the Lakers versus Celtics are a rivalry and, still are. I just think the Yankees, Red Sox, Tyler, you were saying it's historic. They say baseball is America's pastime, and I just feel like there's too much history there.
No, I agree 100%. I think because there's so much history, because they face each other so often, to have those moments in history, not only in the regular season, but also AL East championships or Eastern championships, to fight their way into the World Series. So many great moments. And I feel like they're always really good, or at least one of them is. And, you always get those times where the Red Sox are really good and the Yankees just like end up sweeping them and vice versa. And it's just like, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It's because there's bad blood. Everybody who's a Yankees fan hates the Red Sox. Everybody who's a Red Sox fan hates the Yankees. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So now our next semifinal matchup, Tyler, I'm going to let you start this one off. We got Barcelona versus Real Madrid and Duke versus UNC.
So I was marinating on this one a little bit before we got to this pick. And I'm actually going to have to go with the upset on this one with Barcelona versus Real Madrid. And I think it's purely based on the world. Everybody in the world knows Barcelona and Real Madrid hate each other. It's synonymous. They go hand in hand. Where, Duke versus UNC, I've been saying this. Yeah, the longevity's there, but then you get some years where UNC's better, Duke is better, and it's really not that great of a rivalry, even though they hype it up to be. Where Barcelona versus Real Madrid, like I said, they're always fighting for the Series A. They're always even fighting for the Champions League, which is like the Super Bowl in soccer. So I'm going to have to go with Barcelona versus Real Madrid purely based on that.
Yeah, no, I was interested the way you would swing on that one. I'm going to have to agree with you. It's a little bit different. Like you said, obviously college's recruitment is a little bit different than, kind of paying guys, top name players to, come play for the team, which who doesn't want to play for Barcelona or Real Madrid, right? Growing up, those are the two titans of football teams, if you will, that you want to play for. So I'm going to agree with you on that one, Tyler. So now Anya. Good on ya.
Good on ya. Good
now
on ya,
we got an interesting matchup. I kind of thought Duke versus UNC would have been here and we would have had a 1 versus 2, but after, talking it out, Tyler, Barcelona versus Real Madrid makes a lot of sense. I'm kind of torn on this one because part of me wants to say, the global scale of it, the history, how competitive it is.
Well, let me say one thing.
Recurring, I guess, the recurring repetitiveness.
Right.
Competitiveness.
You said something in the last round where people buy, players, obviously, compared to college recruiting. Name another two teams that try and outbid each other on players.
Yeah.
That's the Yankees versus Red Sox. They do it every year. They go after the biggest names because they're trying to be better than that other team. I mean, granted, Barcelona and Real Madrid probably do it to a scale, but there's also, players that aren't going to go to Barcelona or players who aren't going to go to Real Madrid where people want to play for the Yankees and the Red Sox. And they will do whatever it takes to outbid the other team just to piss them off. That's how heated this rivalry is.
Right, and if you go from like one team to the other, like Johnny Damon, for instance, after all he did for the Red Sox, they just kind of spit on him after he went to the Yankees, which, again, I was going to say, being a little bit selfish, when I think sports rivalries, Tyler, the number one thing that pops into my head is Yankees-Red Sox. And at the same time, even though American baseball isn't international the way soccer is, I think if you ask anyone from a different country who knows American baseball a little bit, like name one team, it's going to be Yankees or Red Sox. I mean, these are the two historic pinnacle teams of the MLB. And again, like I said, being a little selfish, this is just what I think when what comes to mind when sports rivalries are mentioned.
Yeah, I think this is one of the juiciest rivalries there is. I mean, like I said before, if there was one game that you would want to see Yankees, you would say Red Sox. I feel like you could say, hey, who do you want to see Barcelona face? It might not always be Real Madrid. It might be PSG. It might be Chelsea. It may be Dortmund. You never know because it depends on who's good that year. But when it's the Yankees versus Red Sox, you're not only going up against that city. You're not only going up against the past. You're not only going up against, Boston or New York City. You're going up against those fans.
Yeah.
You hate the opposing fans. I hate Red Sox fans more than any other fans in the United States, in the world. I just think they're all assholes, and they probably think the same of me as a Yankee fan. But that's just the way it is. That's why we're rivals.
Sorry, not sorry, Red Sox fans, but Tyler and I are in agreement. No coin flip here. New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox is the No Look Podcast #1 sports rivalry. Tyler, I think that went pretty well. We only had one coin flip, which shouldn't have been a coin flip, but I'm not going to get into that.
I'm just glad I won that one because I knew I was going to pick Duke versus UNC after that anyways.
Yeah. Just had to be a little cocksucker one time. As always, be the thorn in my foot. But all right, so we're quarter past the hour here, cutting into Monday night game in a little bit. Finish up our bracket.
What'd you think? I liked it. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, again, synonymous with No Look Podcast sports, so I felt like it kind of made sense. We hadn't done it before, and I thought it went well overall. But with that being said, I'm going to shut this down, restart the Monday Night Gaming, so I'll be back in a couple minutes, get that starting soon sign, and use the laboratories real quick, grab a drink. So, Tyler, be right back.
Love you.